You know, your family's physical history is incredibly fragile, and frankly, it's fading right now. Every single day, those old boxes of classic and vintage negative film lose just a little bit of their magic to time and chemical degradation. It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it. But what if you could freeze them? Just capture them perfectly, forever, in absolutely stunning high resolution. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are mastering the ultimate camera digitizing workflow. We're going to dive right into this and learn exactly how to build a museum-quality archive that actually honors your family's legacy. So, here's our masterclass blueprint for today. We're covering camera scanning beats flatbeds, the ultimate film gear setup, bulletproof archival organization, the perfect capture workflow, and finally, inversion and color accuracy. Let's get into it. Section 1, Camera Scanning Beats Flatbeds, the end of the waiting game. I really want you to stop and consider this for a second. Why on earth would you spend months scanning negatives on a traditional flatbed scanner when you can literally do it in minutes? I mean, think about the sheer value of your time, not to mention the very real risk of letting those delicate negatives degrade even further while you're stuck using outdated, agonizingly slow methods. When you look at the traditional flatbed scanner, it brings incredibly sluggish capture times, it really struggles to pull detail out of smaller film formats, and it often traps you with these generic, guesswork software profiles. But then, compare that to a modern mirrorless camera. We are talking high-speed processing where you can capture an entire roll of 36 frames in just a few minutes. It's night and day. You get breathtaking raw detail, especially if you're utilizing pixel shift technology, and you get the massive benefit of a real-time tethered workflow. For negative film, the flatbed is officially a thing of the past. Section 2, the ultimate film gear setup. Precision meets perfect lighting. The absolute best news here is that you do not need a $50,000 professional lab setup to achieve archival greatness. You really just need this core dynamic duo, a dependable mirrorless camera and a high-quality one-to-one macro lens. That lens basically acts as a precision magnifying glass to capture the fine film grain. Now, these must be perfectly perpendicular to your baseboard on a sturdy copy stand, while a precision film holder keeps your negatives totally, completely flat. Getting the camera perfectly aligned is huge, but it's really only half the battle. You see, color film has this built-in villain, the orange mask. To defeat it at a museum-grade level, you use what's called a dichroic light source. This is so cool. It uses adjustable cyan, magenta, and yellow filters to physically neutralize that orange mask before the light ever even hits your camera sensor. Now, if a specialized dichroic enlarger head isn't quite in the budget, the universally accepted alternative is making sure your backlight is a highly diffused LED panel with a color rendering index, or CRI, of 95 or higher. Now, if you want to skip the copy stand altogether for your 35mm film, lens-mounted holders are amazing. Let's break down two popular options really quickly. You've got the Nikon ES2, which sits around 140 to 150 pounds, but it has an open design that can be somewhat prone to flare, and it relies on an external light. On the flip side, the Veloy EZ35 runs about 200 to 230 pounds, but it features an enclosed design to block out ambient room light, has its own built-in CRI 95 Plus LED, and uses the sprocket-fed track that makes scanning incredibly fast. So, depending on your budget, it's a fantastic, quick choice. Moving on to Section 3. Bulletproof archival organization. Escaping the digital shoebox. Having all that sweet gear is great, but without strict organization, even your most beautiful scans will just turn into a chaotic digital shoebox. So, here's a golden rule. Never, ever name your files based purely on what the image shows. It's a trap. You need a location-based naming convention that points directly back to the physical media. It's like a map. Step 1, create a family prefix. Say KFA for Klein Family Archive. Step 2, assign the media group, like AG07, which represents 35mm film. Step 3, add the container ID, like Roll 01. And finally, Step 4, number the individual images. So your file becomes KFA-AG07-Roll01-MG01. Trust me, this structure is going to save you hours of pulling your hair out later. So how do we actually apply those names without losing our minds? Tethered shooting. This is a real game changer. By connecting your camera directly to your PC, you can instantly apply these exact folder names as you shoot. But even better, it gives you a real-time review on a massive screen. You can instantly catch a speck of dust on the negative or realize your focus is a tiny bit soft and fix it right then and there, rather than discovering it 3 days later. It's the ultimate professional workflow. Section 4, the perfect capture workflow. dialing in the magic. Okay, our gear is locked in, our folders are waiting. We want to save time, right? So program these exact settings into a custom dial on your camera, like C1, so you literally never have to guess again. You want aperture priority mode. Use your lowest native ISO, which is usually ISO 100, for zero digital noise. Set your aperture between f5.6 and f8. That's generally the absolute sharpest sweet spot for macro lenses. Turn on manual focus with peaking to really nail that film grain. Use a 2-second self-timer so your hand doesn't vibrate the camera when you press the shutter. Shoot strictly in raw image quality. And actually, this is super important. Turn your image stabilizer off. When you're bolted to a copy stand, stabilization tries to correct for movement that isn't there, and it actually introduces distortion. With the camera ready, here is your exact step-by-step physical sequence. First, capture photo of your printed archive label. Do this before anything else because it permanently links your digital folder to the physical box. Second, load the film with the dull emulsion side up, facing the camera. Third, digitize the image in your RAW format. And fourth, because we are shooting the emulsion side, the image is mirrored, so you'll just horizontally flip and invert that file later in your software to make it readable. And speaking of the emulsion side, here is a crucial trade secret. You should absolutely always capture the film with the dull, flat emulsion side facing the camera lens. Why? Well, the emulsion side is where the actual image data lives. By pointing it directly at the lens, you achieve the absolute maximum sharpness, and you entirely bypass the optical distortion and those annoying glossy reflections from the film's shiny plastic backing. It's a huge pro tip. But, sometimes you run into problem media. For extremely high-density film, think Kodachrome slides, or severely underexposed negatives, you're going to see blocked shadows where the camera sensor just can't see through the thick dyes. When this happens, use the HDR hack. You simply take 2 or 3 pictures of the exact same frame, one normal and 1 or 2 that are highly overexposed. Then your digital HDR software combines them. It basically pierces right through that dense film to pull out all those hidden details without adding any of that ugly digital noise. Section 5. Inversion and color accuracy. The final transformation. Okay, we've got our perfectly sharp, raw, tethered captures. Now we have to turn those weird orange-tinted negative files into pristine, positive family heirlooms. And the crucial point here is this. Manually inverting color negatives using Photoshop curves requires a really deep understanding of film chemistry and color science. It takes forever. Honestly, don't do it. Use dedicated software like FilmLab Desktop or Negative Lab Pro. These programs are specifically engineered to instantly neutralize that complex orange mask we talked about earlier, and they apply a highly accurate white balance. It turns hours of frustrating tweaking into a completely seamless, super fast workflow. And as we do this color correction, we should always keep FADG compliance in mind. This is basically a museum-grade standard. It emphasizes measurable color accuracy and total neutrality, rather than just going for artificially pleasing aesthetics. It's a really good warning against the amateur trap of wildly oversaturating or cranking up the contrast on vintage images. We want to preserve this history exactly as it was captured, relying on the actual math of the color rather than just guessing what looks pretty to our modern eyes. Ultimately, we go through all this meticulous, highly technical work for one profound reason. As our source material so beautifully puts it, this comprehensive digitization process turns ordinary photos into colorful historical records. You are literally preserving the very DNA of your family. You're uncovering genealogical clues, and you're making sure the faces of your ancestors actually survive the test of time. It's incredibly important work. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The plain chemistry of vintage film means that your family's physical history is actively fading right now as it sits in those boxes. So the question is, will you let it slowly disappear, or will you take this blueprint, the macro lenses, the tethered workflow, the bulletproof organization, and build an archive that lasts for centuries? The tools are out there, and now you have the masterclass. It's time to get to work. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy archiving.